The Paul Leslie Hour, helping people tell their stories. And now, your host, Paul Leslie.
Hey, it's me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to announce our guest on this episode. Howard Jones is an iconic new wave artist, a true innovator in synth-pop. He is an international performing artist. As a recording artist, he has released more than a dozen albums, the latest, the 2019 Transform, which was released on CD and vinyl, to great reviews. It's our pleasure to welcome singer, songwriter, musician, performing, and recording artist, Howard Jones.
Hi there.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Oh, no, it's great. Well, great. No, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you.
This new album is entitled Transform. It's a powerful word, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I one of the theme of the album lyrically was about, if we want to create a more peaceful, equal world, then we have to start with ourselves. We have to sort of make the changes within ourselves. And it's about personal transformation, really, and how that then can ripple out into daily life and everything that we do, everyone we meet. And it's about facing the difficulties head on and not turning away and using those difficult experiences to become stronger and wiser and more courageous. And so, I had that theme running through pretty much all the tracks on the album.
I have to say, I really, really love this album. It's great.
Oh, great. Well, good. I'm glad you like it.
Something that I felt a lot of from this album is a lot of emotion. How important is it to be in contact with your emotions when you're an artist?
Well, I think that music itself is incredibly powerful and reaches parts of us that normal speech or dialogue or reading can't touch. And so as soon as I start writing new songs, I'm working with the music. I'm singing a lot. I'm opening up part of me that is different to if you're just having a conversation with somebody. And I think that's really what music is about. It's why music is so important, for everyone, really. Without music, I think life would be, a much duller place. And it seems to touch the parts of us that, the sort of emotional part of us, the heart side of our lives. And, as soon as I start to get down to writing new things, I'm very conscious of that. And, as I'm singing, as I'm writing the lyrics, I feel very in touch with my own feelings and my own, aspirations and my heartfelt myself and the world. And that's the process, really.
When you're writing music, are you thinking about the people who are going to be listening and singing along in the audience or listening nowadays with earbuds? Are you thinking about them?
I very much do think about them, yeah. I think about what things that I am seeing in the world and the way that I'm reacting to it. And I'm thinking about how other people are going through different things in their lives and what could be most useful, to be communicating. And, I've always been like that. It's never been the music just because I like music and it's great fun to do and everything like that. I honestly feel that it is a way of deeply communicating with people and offering some insight into things and sort of encouragement, really, about, not easy to get through for anybody. Nobody escapes difficulties and troubles. There's not one person on the planet who doesn't have to go through struggles and battles. And I'm constantly thinking about that and what I would like to hear from music and from things I read and art in general. And I think it's it's opening oneself up to be broader in one's thinking, and also courageous to battle through difficulties and believe and be hopeful about the future. So all those things are going through my head, and then sometimes very personal things, like there's a song on the album that I wrote for my mother who passed away several years ago, and I'd waited quite a long time to actually write a song about her and for her, and I was thinking about all the people who would share those feelings with me when they heard the song, and how important it was for me to get the lyrics absolutely right and not too complicated and not too intellectual, but to really communicate something quite beautiful and vulnerable and fitting with the feelings that we have for people that are really close to us in our lives.
I have to say that song "Mother" that you're talking about there, it's something that was so relatable.
Well, that's good. That's good. I think that's the aim. For the music to be relevant and to share. Well, basically, sometimes I feel the job of an artist is to articulate the things that we all feel. Artists have time to think and contemplate and work on their music or whatever it is they do, and have the time to do that and then articulate it so that people can easily release those feelings themselves.
Sometimes there's a misconception. I remember one guest on this show who he kind of made the suggestion that electronic music isn't soulful, and that's just not true. And I'm curious to know, is that something that you've perceived, a kind of prejudice about electronic music by certain people?
To be honest, I think you can experience prejudice about any kind of music and any kind of thing that you do.
That's true.
I mean, I find it sort of hilarious, really, because I'm sure that electronic music can be soulless, but so can somebody playing the piano really badly. You know what I mean? It's like it's an instrument and it's a vehicle, so it depends how you drive it.
Huh?
You can drive it and slam it into a wall and break things, or you can drive it in a beautiful, smooth fashion that gives everybody a nice ride. It's so pathetic to me, anybody saying things like that. I just find it really difficult to answer it. It's like, okay, take 10 people who play the piano, and sit them down, and basically a piano is a bunch of switches, right? You press the switches and you get a sound. I mean, it's a mechanical instrument. Now, some people can play that piano and you just are reduced to a heap, of a complete emotional wreck, and then someone else can play very similar and hide. So what's the difference? It's the difference of the intention and the commitment and the sort of relationship between the player and their humanity and their feelings and their emotions. And it's always been like that. Technology has gone hand in hand with music since the beginning of time. It's technology, isn't it? Violins, drums, pianos, guitars. It's technology. Technology has always driven music forward and given more colors and palettes to artists, to play with, and it's to do with the person behind it, isn't it? The soul side of it. I mean, I just find those comments just hilarious, really, because as somebody who doesn't understand, music.
Yeah. I wanted to tell you about this young guy that I saw. My friend and I were at this restaurant, And this guy, he was maybe 20 years old or so, and he was just playing guitar and singing, and he did the most stunning version of No One Is to Blame. I wish I had gotten the guy's name, but I'm curious, has there been any place you've been surprised to hear your music?
Well, I just, no, not really. I mean, I just finished a short South American tour. I did 3 countries in South America, and I arrived back in Heathrow Airport, and I went into the men's bathroom, and new song was playing. So I was a little bit surprised to hear that. But yeah, no, I mean, I always kind of get quite excited really when I hear new music played in out there in public. I'm not. I don't know if I'm surprised, but I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I guess you know that you've really made an impact when you're in a restroom in South America and there's your song.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Is there a preparation you make before you record or before you go on stage? Is there something like a ritual that you have?
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm very much aware that the audience, has made huge efforts to be at the show, and they've spent money, they've had to make arrangements at home, they've had to travel. I mean, incredible efforts people make to come to shows, and I really want to respect that. So, I mean, before I go on, I'm a Buddhist, so I chant for 10 minutes just before I go on to, really give people a fantastic show and to be at my best and to be in good spirits myself, so that I can really respect the fact that everyone's made such an effort to be there and to give them a really interesting and uplifting time.
Do you find yourself zoning in on a certain person at times? Like, do you notice specific people in the audience?
I try not to, actually, because once I start focusing on somebody, I get drawn into their state of mind and the way they're reacting to the show, and it totally distracts me because I really need to concentrate on what I'm doing. I have so many things to think about, all the lyrics, the singing, and the playing all at the same time, and what I'm going to say next, and all those things. So I give people like a fleeting glance to just check that everything's going well, but I don't linger on any one person because it's too distracting. I need to be fully focused and concentrating on what I'm doing.
Certainly, with the number of places that you've traveled around the world, you've had a chance to meet a lot of people. I'm curious to know, what is the most touching thing a fan has said to you?
Well, I mean, there's been countless things, really, over the years. I mean, almost on a daily basis, people write to me, obviously by email now, and they tell me about, how the music has been a part of their life and had an impact on them. And I don't know, it's just, there's thousands and thousands of stories, really. I don't really remember all of, obviously I can't remember all of them, but I mean, it's in general, it's just amazing to think that, what you spent so much time on and really slaved over getting the music to be as good as it possibly can be, and really to be as honest as you can be with your lyrics, and that is capable of giving somebody a bit of a lift, when they're going through a terrible time. And I remember at one show, I asked people to email me and request a song that they'd like me to play. And people would often sort of send little stories about why they wanted me to play that song. And I remember there was one when I was playing in Wales, and this email said that their daughter had been involved in this terrible coach crash, and she'd been really quite badly injured, and she was in the middle of her studies to do her we have things called A levels here, which is what you use to get into university with. And so she was like, in hospital and, really struggling. And she played Things Can Only Get Better every single day, and, made this sort of great recovery, did really well in her A levels. And she actually came to that show. And, it's things like that makes, I've always taken it very seriously, what I do, but when you get feedback back like that on a sort of daily basis, then you realize that it's very, very important that you make the work as good as possible so that people can benefit from it.
Wow. Absolutely. Is there anyone you're dreaming of collaborating, whether recording or writing songs?
No. I'd quite like to write a song with Paul McCartney, but I suppose that's probably unlikely that will happen. And that's the only person that I think. I as you know, I wrote 3 songs with BT on this album, and we collaborated on 3 songs and I'm a huge fan of his, and I've totally admired his work. I admire him even more now that I've worked with him. And there's really not, I'm very much, I don't collaborate much. I think for me it's really important to have my individual voice. I like the idea of collaborations, and I think that we've got to work together in society and everything. But artists, are supposed to really speak from their own experience and voice, and I think that's actually one of the powerful things about music. So I've no sort of problem with coming up with ideas and everything. But when somebody like BT comes along, I just have always admired their work, right? For years and years. And then I managed to meet them, and then that just doesn't happen very much to me. I'm not a very social person, really. I suppose I just get on with my work and tour and do my thing. So it's probably not going to happen. Yeah.
As you mentioned, BT and you collaborated on 3 of these songs. The first song on the album, great song. Also, I want everyone out there listening, check out the YouTube video. It's really something. It's called The One to Love You. Tell us about that song.
Yeah, well, that was the first piece that we collaborated on, and I've been over to meet BT at his house, in Maryland, and we hung out in the studio and started messing around with a load of analog synths and having a great time. And I said to him, "Look, man, we really should do something together. This is just like, it's obvious that we should do something together. It's meant to be." And he said, "Man, he said, I would die to do that, So he started playing me a few things, ideas that he was working on. And I think about second or third one in, I said, I can hear what I would do with this piece of music. I could kill this, And so that was the start of The One to Love You. And then he sent me 2 other ideas. And then, we were sending stuff back and forth, and all of them turned into pieces, for the album. So, yeah, one of the things about BT's work is that it sounds so good, even when he's just like working up ideas. It just sounds so good. It's just, for me, it was totally inspirational to then start adding stuff myself and vocal ideas and lyrics. And yeah, we had a really great time doing it, actually. And then we ended up back in his studio mixing it at the end of the album. It was fun. Yeah, it was great.
This album, as I was mentioning at the beginning, they can get it on CD, but they can also get it on vinyl. I don't know if I'm imagining it's probably the same in the United Kingdom, but here in the United States, vinyl is becoming just like huge. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, I think vinyl is great as long as the artist or the people behind the work get involved with it being cut, so that it sounds like it's supposed to sound. I mean, my kids bought me a vinyl of the Beatles' White Album, which is one of the early albums that I bought when I was a teenager, and I played it to death, and it sounded amazing. And they bought this they bought me this sort of remastered vinyl, and honestly, it sounded like shit. I mean, and I thought, nobody can't so when I know that everyone wanted me to do Transform on vinyl, and so I said, right, I'm going to get involved with this. I'm going to make sure that this sounds absolutely brilliant, on vinyl, because you have to work at it. It's not like CD where you can kind of translate pretty much what you're doing in the studio directly, because it's digital, straight onto CD, and there's very little difference. I mean, there's a bit, but hardly any. But with vinyl, you have to put the effort in, on each track it will require different things. As you get towards the center of the vinyl, the sound response is different. So you want tracks there that don't have so much bass end. And there's like, it's an art form. And so, if anybody's thinking of putting out vinyl, they've got to be in the studio with the guy cutting it and put the effort in to make sure that it sounds really good. And that's my only comment, really, is like, don't just let somebody else take your digital masters and just whack it onto vinyl. It doesn't work. You've got to it sounds right. So I just would like to say to people, just because it's on vinyl, it doesn't mean it's going to sound great. It just depends on who's been taking the care. The due diligence has been done to make sure that vinyl sounds good. So that's my thoughts on it. I mean, I'm really proud of the way Transform sounds, because I spent, a couple of days in with the cutting engineer, making sure that it sounded great.
Well, Howard, would you have any farewell words for our listeners?
Yeah, well, thanks ever so much for listening today, and hope to see you soon on tour in all the various forms that I tour in. And I hope you enjoy the new album, Transform. Thank you.
Howard, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Okay, all the best. Bye now. Bye.
Zapabi papa do nakajiba loop tikis on the gujia the kasagika like a pina say the bocheki yeki ponking kakati kon kititon ki put be like a turzikan de levangela goodbye.